The night my daughter told me to leave was the night I stopped being anyone's anchor. I'd raised Maddie alone after her mother passed when she was 9, worked double shifts at the freight depot, ate cold dinner standing at the counter while she did homework at the kitchen table. 23 years of showing up, and it took her husband Trevor 3 months to decide I was dead weight in their basement. "Dad, you need to leave. Today." No yelling. No tears. Just that flat, rehearsed tone she must have practiced with him upstairs while I pretended not to hear the floorboards creak. I packed my duffel in 40 minutes, work boots, 2 changes of clothes, my father's watch, and a photo of Maddie blowing out candles on her 7th birthday. The rest could rot. I-90 stretched dark and empty past Rochester, my truck engine ticking like a countdown. I had $200, half a tank of gas, and no plan beyond away. That's when I saw them, hazard lights blinking on the shoulder, a minivan tilted at a bad angle, steam hissing from under the hood. A man in a rumpled button-down waved both arms. A woman stood behind him, clutching 2 kids against the wind. I could have kept driving. Should have, probably. But I pulled over. "Thank God," the man said when I climbed out. His glasses sat crooked on his nose, fogged from the cold. "We've been here 20 minutes. No cell signal." "Pop the hood," I told him. The radiator hose had split clean through, coolant pooling on the asphalt like spilled paint. The kids, a boy about 10, a girl maybe 7, watched me from behind their mother's legs, eyes wide and tired. "You're not driving this anywhere tonight," I said. "There's a motel 6 miles up. I can tow you." "We can't afford," the woman started. "Didn't ask if you could." I rigged a tow with the chain I kept behind my seat, the kind of setup that'd make a highway patrol officer write 3 tickets, but it held. The motel sign blinked vacancy in pink neon, half the letters dead. I paid for their room with the last of my cash, $140 that was supposed to get me to somewhere else, anywhere else. The man, Ethan Wells, shook my hand too long. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't," I said. "Just get your kids to bed." I slept in my truck in the parking lot, engine running for heat until the gauge dropped too low to risk it. At dawn, Ethan knocked on my window with 2 cups of gas station coffee and an address written on a napkin. "My friend runs an auto shop 15 minutes from here," he said. "If you can give us a lift, he'll fix the van and I'll pay you back." "I promise." The address led to a children's hospital. Not the main entrance, a side wing with glass doors and a bronze plaque that read Wells Family Foundation, Pediatric Care and Medical Relief. Ethan saw my face and sighed. "I should have been honest," he said. "But people get weird when they know." His wife Nora stepped out of the van, carrying the sleeping girl. She looked at me, then at the building, then back at me. "You're Tom Reeves." I blinked. "How do you?" Seneca Lake, 2019. "You pulled a kid out of a burning boat." There was a piece in the Democrat and Chronicle. She shifted her daughter's weight. "I volunteer at the clinic downtown." We keep that article on the bulletin board. I barely remembered the interview. Some reporter had caught me at the dock while the EMTs were still loading the kid into the ambulance. I'd said something generic about doing what anyone would do, then walked away before they could ask more questions. "That was 6 years ago," I said. "Some things stick," Nora replied. Over pancakes at a diner across the street, Ethan explained the foundation. His grandfather had made money in medical supply distribution, decided late in life that hoarding it was pointless, and set up an endowment. Ethan and Nora ran it now, coordinating donations, managing a warehouse full of surplus equipment, connecting hospitals and clinics with what they needed. "It's not glamorous," Ethan said. "Mostly spreadsheets and shipping manifests." "And late nights," Nora added. "Our overnight coordinator just quit. Walked out mid-shift because he got a better offer." She said it casually. But her eyes stayed on me. We need someone reliable, she continued. Someone who knows how to handle equipment, can work independently, doesn't need hand-holding. It's not a lot of money, but it comes with health insurance and a room above the warehouse floor. Small, but clean. I set my fork down. You don't know me. I know you spent your last cash on a motel room for strangers, Nora said. I know you towed us 6 miles on a bad chain in the dark. And I know you didn't ask for anything in return. That doesn't make me qualified. It makes you decent, Ethan said. Which is harder to find than qualified. I took the job. Not because I needed charity, I told myself that for weeks, but because I needed something to wake up for. The room was exactly what Nora promised, a loft space above the warehouse with a bed, a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a window that looked out over the loading docks. It smelled like cardboard and disinfectant, and it was the first place in months that felt like mine. The work was straightforward. Inventory arrived between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., pallets of hospital beds, for stands, wheelchairs, monitors, oxygen tanks. I checked manifests, logged serial numbers, flagged damaged items, and coordinated with the morning team for outbound shipments. Quiet work. Steady work. Ethan stopped by most nights around midnight with coffee and updates. He never talked about money or the foundation's donors, but he'd mention the kids they'd helped, a clinic in Syracuse that got an ultrasound machine, a rural hospital in the Adirondacks that received a dozen infant warmers. My dad used to say wealth is wasted on the comfortable, Ethan told me one night, leaning against a pallet of crutches. He died 2 years ago. Heart attack. I didn't get to say goodbye. He stared at his coffee cup. I keep thinking I'm doing this wrong, he continued. Like I'm missing something he would have seen. You're showing up, I said. That's not nothing. He looked at me, and for a second I saw the same expression Maddie used to have when she was small and I'd tell her everything would be okay, half hope, half doubt. A month in, I noticed the numbers didn't match. A shipment manifest listed 44 pumps, but only 37 sat on the pallet. I checked the logs. 3 were missing. Then I found gaps in the wheelchair count. Then the oxygen regulators. I started watching the relief driver, a guy named Kyle who covered my days off. He was smooth, knew how to talk to the morning staff, always had a joke ready, but I caught him once, adjusting a manifest on his phone before I could check the physical count. I told Ethan. He went pale. How much? Enough to trigger an audit if the state notices. Maybe enough to shut you down. We set up a camera. Kyle fenced the equipment to a flipper in Buffalo who sold it online, marked as gently used hospital surplus. Ethan fired him, reported it to the authorities, and tightened inventory protocols. You saved us, Nora said during the staff meeting afterward. If this had gone another month, we would have lost accreditation. I just did the job, I replied. No, Ethan said. You did what someone who cares does. That night, he asked if I wanted to grab a beer. We sat on the dock near the warehouse, feet dangling over the water, and he told me about his father, how he'd taught Ethan to sail, how they'd built the foundation's first supply list together on a yellow legal pad, how he'd refused treatment for the heart condition because he didn't want to be a burden. I spent my whole life trying to be the guy he thought I could be, Ethan said. But I didn't know how to ask for help. Still don't, most days. Asking's the hardest part, I said. He nodded. You remind me of him. Steady. Doesn't need credit. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. We just sat there, watching the water turn black under the stars, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was disappearing. Winter settled over Rochester like a held breath. The warehouse stayed busy through the holidays. Clinics and shelters always needed more when the temperature dropped, but the work kept me anchored. I stopped checking my phone for messages from Maddie. She'd made her choice, and I'd made mine by not fighting it. Then MLK Day weekend arrived, and she showed up. I was reorganizing the medical supply section when I heard footsteps on the metal stairs leading to my loft. 2 sets. I knew her walk before I turned around, quick, purposeful, the way she used to storm through the house when she was angry about something at school. "Dad." She stood in the doorway with Trevor behind her, both of them dressed too nice for a warehouse visit. Her hair was shorter. She'd lost weight. Trevor looked worse, circles under his eyes, jaw tight, the kind of tension that comes from money problems. "Maddie." I set down my clipboard. "Didn't know you were coming. You changed your number." "Lost my phone. Haven't replaced it yet." "Lie." I'd bought a burner 2 weeks after leaving, didn't give anyone the number. She stepped inside, glanced around the loft, the narrow bed, the hot plate, the stack of library books on the windowsill. Something crossed her face. Pity, maybe. Or judgment. "We need to talk," she said. Trevor stayed in the doorway, arms crossed. I gestured to the 2 chairs I had, one kitchen chair, one folding lawn chair with a ripped seat. "Sit." Maddie sat. Trevor didn't. "Our startup collapsed," she said. No preamble, no warmth. We had 12 clients lined up, contracts ready, then our developer quit and took the code. We've been fighting him in court for 4 months, burning through savings. The mortgage is 3 months past due. I waited. "We need $40,000, Trevor said. "To catch up and keep the house." "I don't have $40,000, I replied. "But they do." Maddie pointed toward the window, toward the foundation building visible across the parking lot. "You're friends with them now, right? The Wells family. They're loaded. They run a medical foundation. They have money." Her voice rose. "You help them, they help you. That's how it works." "That's not how it works." Trevor stepped forward. "You're living in their building, working their charity job. You owe us more than you owe them." Something cold settled in my chest. "I don't owe you anything. We took you in," Maddie said. "After you lost your job, after you couldn't make rent. We gave you a place to stay. For 3 months. And Trevor made sure I knew every day that I was a burden. Because you were." Trevor's voice bounced off the concrete walls. "Sitting in our basement, eating our food, acting like some kind of martyr. I paid rent. Every month. Every dollar I had from unemployment." "It wasn't enough," Maddie said quietly. The words hit harder than Trevor's yelling. "So what do you want?" I asked. "You want me to beg rich people for money because your business failed?" "I want you to act like a father," Maddie said. "I want you to help your daughter." "I am helping. I'm not enabling." She stood up so fast the chair scraped. "You're just like Mom said. All principles, no heart." That one landed. Her mother had said that once, during a fight I thought Maddie was too young to remember. I'd refused to borrow money from my brother for a bigger house because I didn't want the debt hanging over us. We'd made it work in the smaller place, but my wife never forgave me for not asking. "I'm not asking them for money," I said. "But I'll do something better." I pulled out my phone, the burner, and called Nora. She answered on the second ring. "Tom? Everything okay? I need a favor. The foundation has financial counseling services, right? For families in crisis? We partner with a nonprofit." "Why?" "My daughter and her husband need help. Mortgage trouble, business failure. They need advice, not a handout." Pause. "Bring them by tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll set it up." I hung up and handed Maddie a flyer I'd grabbed from the front office weeks ago. Financial counseling. Free. They'll help you restructure, negotiate with the bank, figure out what's realistic. Maddie stared at the flyer like I'd handed her garbage. We don't need counseling, Trevor said. We need cash. Then get a loan. Get jobs. Sell the house and rent something smaller. But I'm not asking people who barely know me to bail you out. Unbelievable. Maddie crumpled the flyer, then smoothed it out and shoved it in her pocket. You'd rather impress strangers than help your own family. I'd rather teach you to stand on your own. She turned toward the stairs. Trevor followed, but stopped at the doorway. You're a selfish old man, he said. And when you're dying alone in this shithole, don't expect us to show up. They left. I stood in the empty loft, hands shaking, and told myself I'd done the right thing. 2 days later, Ethan found me in the warehouse, stacking wheelchairs. Nora told me what happened, he said. Your daughter came for the counseling appointment. Stayed 2 hours. I didn't look up. She say anything? She cried. A lot. The counselor thinks they can save the house if they refinance and Trevor picks up contract work. It won't be easy. Nothing worth keeping is. Ethan leaned against the stack. My father used to say the hardest love is the kind that doesn't rescue. It teaches. Your father sounds smarter than me. He was. But he also died thinking he had to carry everything alone. Ethan handed me a bottle of water. You did good, Tom. Even if it doesn't feel like it. I wanted to believe him. But that night, lying in my narrow bed, all I could hear was Maddie's voice, no heart. Spring came slowly. The warehouse stayed busy, and I stayed busy with it. I stopped thinking about Maddie's visit, stopped wondering if I'd made the right call. Work was simple. Work made sense. Then one morning in early April, Ethan and Nora asked me to meet them at the foundation office. We have a proposal, Nora said, sliding a folder across the desk. I opened it. Legal documents. My name in bold at the top. We want to name you as educational and medical advocate for our children, Ethan explained. If something happens to us, accident, illness, whatever, you'd make decisions about their schooling and healthcare alongside our estate trustee. I stared at the words, not comprehending. Why me? Because you show up, Nora said simply. Because you're steady. Because our kids talk about Mr. Tom, who lets them ride the pallet jack when they visit the warehouse. I barely know them. You know what matters, Ethan said. And we trust you. The second document was a grant program. The Reeves Grant for Lakeshore Trades Education, funding for kids in the Rochester area who wanted to learn skilled trades, carpentry, mechanics, maritime work. We can't do this, I said. It's already done, Nora replied. The endowment's set. We're announcing it next month. I'm nobody. You're the guy who pulled a kid out of a burning boat, Ethan said. You're the guy who saved our foundation from collapsing. You're the guy who chose principle over easy money when your own daughter was hurting. He leaned forward. You're exactly who we want our kids to learn from. That afternoon, they drove me to the pier where I'd done the rescue 6 years ago. A small crowd had gathered, foundation staff, a few clinic volunteers, and a young man in a Coast Guard uniform. The kid from the boat. Not a kid anymore, 24, broad-shouldered, confident. Officer Miller wanted to be here, Nora whispered. He shook my hand, then pinned something to my shirt, a small brass badge. Honorary watchstander, he said. For someone who stands watch when no one else will. I didn't have words. I just nodded, and he saluted, and I felt something crack open in my chest that I'd kept locked for months. People clapped. Ethan's kids ran up and hugged my legs. And for the first time since Maddie told me to leave, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. The year turned over itself in small, steady increments. Spring gave way to summer, and the warehouse became an oven by afternoon. I started my shifts earlier, finishing inventory before the sun climbed too high. Ethan installed a second-hand air conditioner in my loft, said it was infrastructure improvement, not charity, and I stopped arguing about things like that. The Reeves Grant launched in May. 12 kids received funding that first cycle, 2 for welding certification, 3 for maritime training, 4 for automotive tech, 2 for carpentry, and 1 for HVAC. Nora made me attend the award ceremony. I sat in the back, uncomfortable in a borrowed sport coat, while teenagers I'd never met shook my hand and thanked me for opportunities one hadn't created. "You're the face of it," Ethan said afterward. "That matters. I didn't do anything. You existed in a way that made people want to do better. That's not nothing." I didn't know how to argue with that, so I let it sit. By August, the foundation had expanded operations, 2 more warehouses in Buffalo and Syracuse, a coordinated network that moved medical supplies across upstate New York faster than the state could. Ethan offered me a supervisor role, more money, an actual office. I turned it down. "I like the night shift," I told him. "I like the quiet." He didn't push. He never did. Autumn came, and with it, the 1-year mark since the night I pulled over on I-90. I didn't think much of it, dates were just dates, but apparently Ethan and Nora had been planning. They showed up at the warehouse on a Tuesday night, along with their kids and half the foundation staff. The loading dock had been cleared, and in the center sat a cargo van, old but refurbished, new paint, new tires, the foundation logo on the side. "It's yours," Nora said. I stared. "For what?" "For pickups. For deliveries. For whatever you need." Ethan handed me the keys. "You've been borrowing the foundation truck for a year. Time you had your own." "I can't." "You can," Nora interrupted. "And you will. Because we're not done." She led me inside, past the familiar rows of pallets and equipment, to a corner of the warehouse I hadn't paid attention to in weeks. They'd cleared it out, set up partitions, installed shelving and racks. A hand-painted sign hung above the entrance, "Tom's Corner." "It's a resource station," Ethan explained. "Warm clothes, work boots, tools, basic supplies. No intake forms, no questions asked. Anyone who needs something can take it. People in crisis don't always need medicine," Nora added. "Sometimes they need a coat. Or a flashlight. Or a decent pair of gloves so they can work." I walked through the space slowly. Racks of jackets organized by size. Bins of hats and scarves. Shelves stocked with hammers, screwdrivers, socket sets, nothing fancy, but all functional. A small table with a coffee maker and a sign that read "Take what you need. Leave what you can." "This is too much," I said. "It's exactly right," Ethan replied. "You spent a year making sure our inventory was perfect. Now you get to help people directly." His kids ran up, the boy holding a drawing of a truck, my truck, with "Mr. Tom" written in crayon across the hood. The girl handed me a card they'd both signed. "Thank you for being our friend," it said. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket, next to my father's watch, and didn't trust myself to speak. That night, after everyone left, I sat in the van, my van, with the keys in my hand and the warehouse quiet around me. The engine started smooth. The heater worked. There was a thermos of coffee in the cup holder with a note from Nora, for the road. I drove out to the pier, parked facing the water, and let myself feel it, the weight of a year, the distance I'd traveled from that night on the highway. I thought about Maddie, about the silence that had stretched between us since MLK weekend. I'd heard through Nora that the counseling had worked, that she and Trevor had restructured their debt, that they were making it. But she hadn't called. I told myself that was fine. That some distances take time to cross. Then, 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. It came to the foundation office, forwarded to me with a sticky note from the front desk. This was dropped off in person. The envelope had my name in Maddie's handwriting, sharper than I remembered, more controlled. I opened it standing by my loft window, the loading dock lights casting long shadows across the floor. Dad. I got a job at the hospital. Nursing assistant, night shift. It's not what I imagined when I finished my degree, but it's steady and it's mine. Trevor's doing contract work. And we're managing. The financial counselor told me something I didn't want to hear, that sometimes the hardest help is the kind that doesn't feel like help at all. She said you gave me what I needed, not what I wanted. I hated that for a long time. I still remember the day Mom died. You held me on the couch until I fell asleep, and when I woke up you were still there, even though you hadn't slept. You told me that showing up was the only promise you could keep. I didn't understand then. I think I'm starting to now. I'm not asking you to forgive me for what I said. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm okay, and that I'm figuring out how to be the kind of person who doesn't need rescuing. Maybe we could get coffee sometime. No money talk. No Trevor. Just us. Maddie. I read it 3 times, then folded it and set it on the windowsill next to the photo of her 7th birthday. The little girl blowing out candles and the woman who signed that letter felt like different people, separated by years of mistakes and lessons I'd taught poorly and moments I couldn't take back. But she'd found work. She was standing on her own. And she wanted coffee. That was something. I called Nora the next morning and asked if the foundation had any nursing assistant openings. She laughed. Tom, we can't hire your daughter just because. Not asking you to hire her. Asking if you have openings. Pause. Actually, yes. The night clinic needs someone. Why? Just wanted to know what's out there. She didn't press, but I heard the smile in her voice. I'll send you the posting. I forwarded it to Maddie's email, the one I still had saved from years ago, with a single line, thought you might be interested. No pressure. Dad. She responded 4 hours later, I'll apply. Thank you. 2 words. Not a reconciliation. Not forgiveness. But a start. The night of our anniversary celebration, after the van and Tom's Corner and all the speeches, Ethan and I stood on the dock again. The water was black and still, the city lights reflecting in fractured gold across the surface. You ever think about that night? He asked. When you stopped for us? Sometimes. What made you do it? I thought about that, about the version of me that had packed a duffel and driven into the dark with no plan and no hope, about the man who'd seen hazard lights and decided, against reason, to pull over. I needed to be someone who still stopped, I said. Ethan nodded slowly. My father used to say that a home isn't a place. It's the people you choose to show up for, and the ones who show up for you. Smart man. He was. Ethan looked at me. You showed up, Tom. For us. For the foundation. For your daughter, even when she couldn't see it. That's what home is. I thought about my loft above the warehouse, the narrow bed, the coffee maker, the view of the loading docks. I thought about Tom's Corner and the van with my name on the keys. I thought about the letter on my windowsill and the possibility of coffee with my daughter, no agenda, no wounds reopened. Yeah, I said. I think you're right. We stood there a while longer, watching the water, and I realized something I hadn't let myself believe in a long time. I wasn't disappearing anymore. I was here. Present. Needed. Home. November brought early snow, the kind that didn't stick but turned everything gray and wet. The warehouse felt colder at night, even with the heater running, and I started keeping a second pot of coffee going just to have something warm to hold between pallet checks. Tom's Corner had become busier than anyone expected. People came in at odd hours, some I recognized from the neighborhood, others I'd never seen before. A woman in her 50s took 3 pairs of work gloves and a winter coat, wouldn't make eye contact, left without a word. A young guy, maybe 19, spent 20 minutes looking at the tools before finally taking a socket set, hands shaking the whole time. "Thank you," he whispered. "That's what it's here for," I told him. Ethan started stopping by more often, sometimes with his kids, sometimes alone. We'd sit in Tom's corner with coffee and watch people come and go. And he'd tell me about the Foundation's latest projects, a mobile clinic for rural areas, a partnership with 3 more hospitals, talks about expanding into Vermont. "None of this would be stable without you," he said one night. "The inventory system, the theft prevention protocols, the culture you've built here. People trust this place because they trust you." "They trust you and Nora," I corrected. "I just keep the lights on." "You do more than that." He looked at me over his cup. "You know that, right?" I didn't answer, because I still wasn't sure I believed it. Then mid-November, 3 weeks after I'd sent Maddie the job posting, my phone rang. Her name on the screen, the first time in 7 months. I almost didn't answer. "Dad?" "Yeah." Silence for a beat. Then, I got the interview. At the night clinic. Thursday at 4. "That's good." "I'm nervous." I closed my eyes. She used to tell me that before school presentations, before driving tests, before her first day of college. "I'm nervous, Dad." And I'd always say the same thing. "You'll be fine," I said. "You know the work. Just be yourself." What if they ask why I left my last job? Tell them the truth. That you needed steadier hours and better benefits. That you want to help people. Another pause. Did you tell them about me? Put in a word? No. I sent you the posting. That's it. This is yours, Maddie. Win or lose. I heard her exhale. Okay. Okay, I can do that. I know you can. Dad? Her voice got quieter. Can we get that coffee? After the interview, I mean. Whether it goes well or not. Something in my chest loosened. Yeah. We can do that. Just us? Just us. She gave me a time and a place, a diner halfway between Rochester and where she lived, neutral territory. I wrote it down on the back of an inventory sheet and taped it to my loft wall where I'd see it every morning. Thursday came. I worked my shift, but couldn't focus. Dropped a clipboard twice. Miscounted a pallet of 4 stands and had to start over. By 6 p.m. I gave up pretending I was productive and just sat in Tom's corner, drinking bad coffee and watching the clock. My phone buzzed at 6:47. Interview went well. See you Saturday at 10 m. I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back, "I'll be there." Saturday morning I drove the cargo van to the diner, arrived 15 minutes early, and sat in the parking lot trying to remember the last real conversation we'd had that didn't end in yelling or silence. Couldn't pin it down. Maybe 2 years ago. Maybe longer. She pulled in at 9:58, saw my van, and hesitated before getting out of her car. She dressed carefully, jeans and a sweater, nothing too formal, but neat. Her hair was pulled back. She looked tired. We met at the door. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Inside, we took a booth by the window. The waitress brought coffee without asking, and we both doctored it the same way, 2 creams, no sugar, and I realized we'd never noticed that before. "So," Maddie said. "So. I think I got the job. They said they'd call Monday, but the interview felt good. They asked about my availability, my certifications, whether I could start in 2 weeks. That's a yes, I said. They don't ask logistics unless they're serious." She nodded, turning her cup in slow circles. "I've been thinking about what you said. About teaching me to stand on my own. Maddie. No, let me finish. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed but steady. I was angry for a long time. I thought you didn't care, that you valued strangers over your own daughter. But the counselor helped me see something. She took a breath. You didn't abandon me. You refused to enable me. And that's harder. That takes more love, not less. I set my cup down carefully, didn't trust my hands. Trevor and I are figuring things out, she continued. The refinancing went through. He's picking up more contracts. We're not drowning anymore. But it's because we had to face it, not run from it. You would have figured it out without me, I said. Maybe. But it would have taken longer. And we'd probably hate each other by now. She smiled, small and sad. You gave me the push I needed. Even though it cost you. That's what parents are supposed to do, isn't it? I don't know what parents are supposed to do anymore, I admitted. I just did what felt right. It was right. She reached across the table, stopped halfway, then completed the movement. Her hand covered mine. I'm sorry, Dad. For what I said. For making you leave. For all of it. You don't have to. I do. Because I was wrong. And because I want to try again. Not go back to how we were, but build something new. I turned my hand over, squeezed hers. I'd like that. We sat like that for a moment, the diner noise fading into background hum, and it felt like standing on solid ground after months of freefall. Tell me about the warehouse, she said, pulling back and picking up her coffee. Nora mentioned something called Tom's Corner. So I told her. About the resource station, the people who came through, the cargo van, the grant program. She listened, really listened, asking questions about inventory systems and distribution networks and whether the foundation needed more volunteers. I could help, she said. If I get the clinic job, I'd be working nights anyway. I could stop by the warehouse sometimes, assist with intake or organization. You don't have to do that. I know. But I want to. I want to see what you've built. We talked for 2 hours. Ordered breakfast, let it get cold, ordered more coffee. She told me about nursing school, about the patients she'd worked with, about how Trevor was trying to rebuild his business with more realistic expectations this time. I told her about Ethan's kids, about the Coast Guard ceremony, about the quiet satisfaction of night shifts where everything worked the way it should. When we finally left, standing in the parking lot between our vehicles, she hugged me. Not the obligatory holiday hug, but the kind she used to give when she was little and I'd pick her up from school, tight and real and unguarded. I missed you, Dad, she said into my shoulder. Missed you too, kid. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Same time next month? Same time next month. I watched her drive away, then sat in the van for a long time, engine running, heater blasting, feeling like I'd just won something I'd thought was lost forever. That night at the warehouse, Ethan found me restocking Tom's Corner. You're smiling, he observed. Am I? First time I've seen it. Good day? Yeah, I said. Really good day. He didn't ask for details, just clapped me on the shoulder and went back to his office. And I kept working, organizing shelves and checking inventory, the weight of Maddie's hug still warm across my shoulders. December came with bitter cold and clear skies. The warehouse became a hub of activity as clinics and shelters prepared for winter demand, and I worked double shifts twice a week just to keep up with the intake. Tom's Corner stayed busy too, people needed warm clothes more than ever, and the donation bins Nora had set up around Rochester kept the shelves stocked. Maddie got the job. She called on a Monday afternoon while I was checking a shipment of hospital beds, her voice bright in a way I hadn't heard in years. I start January 2nd, she said. Night shift, 3 days a week, full benefits. Proud of you, kid. I'm nervous. It's been a while since I worked clinical. You'll be fine. First week's always rough, then it clicks. Can I call you? If I need advice? I had to clear my throat. Anytime. She started visiting the warehouse on her days off, usually late afternoon before my shift started. She'd help organize Tom's Corner, chat with people who came through, ask questions about inventory management and distribution logistics. Ethan's kids loved her. She had a way with children, patient and playful, that reminded me of her mother. She's good at this, Nora said one evening, watching Maddie sort winter coats by size. Have you thought about asking if she wants to volunteer formally? Don't want to push. Tom, she's here 3 times a week. She's already volunteering. That night, I asked Maddie if she wanted to join the Foundation's volunteer roster, nothing mandatory. Just official recognition and access to training resources. Really? Her face lit up. You think I'd be good at it? I think you already are. She signed up the next day. Christmas came quietly. Ethan and Nora invited me to their house for dinner, and I almost declined, felt too much like charity, but Maddie was going with Trevor, and I didn't want to spend the holiday alone in my loft, so I went. Their home was warm and chaotic in the way homes with young children always are, wrapping paper everywhere, the kids hyper on sugar, a golden retriever that wouldn't stop trying to steal food off the table. Ethan's extended family was there, cousins and aunts and uncles, and they treated me like I belonged, no questions asked. After dinner, Ethan pulled me aside to his study, closed the door. I need to talk to you about something, he said. Something Nora and I have been discussing for a while. My stomach tightened. If this is about retiring me. No. God, no. He laughed. The opposite, actually. He sat down, gestured for me to do the same. My father's death taught me something, he began. That control is an illusion. That the best thing you can do is surround yourself with people you trust and give them real authority over what matters. He slid a folder across the desk, more legal documents, dense with language I didn't fully understand. We want to name you as educational and medical advocate for our children, he said. If something happens to us, accident, illness, anything, you'd have legal authority to make decisions about their schooling, their healthcare, their day-to-day welfare alongside our estate trustee. I stared at the papers. Ethan, I'm 62. I'm nobody's. You're exactly who we want. Nora's voice came from the doorway. She stepped inside, closing it behind her. You're steady. You're principled. You care about people more than outcomes. Our kids trust you. What about family? You have cousins out there, people who've known you your whole lives. Family isn't always blood, Ethan said quietly. And honestly, most of my cousins would sell the foundation for parts within a year. You'd protect what my father built. What we're building. Nora sat on the arm of Ethan's chair. We're not asking you to raise them if something happens. We have guardians designated for that. But medical decisions, school choices, whether they should go to college or trade school, we want someone with your judgment making those calls. Why? The word came out rougher than I meant. Because you saved my life once, Ethan said. Not dramatically, not like the boat rescue. But you showed up when I felt like I was failing everything my father built. You caught the theft, yes, but more than that, you reminded me that integrity matters more than looking good. He leaned forward. I trust you with the foundation. I trust you with the thing my father loved most. Why wouldn't I trust you with my children? I looked at the documents, at my name in bold print, at the weight of what they were asking. I need to think about it. Of course, Nora said. Take all the time you need. But Ethan added, quietly, just know that we've already decided. We're not looking for someone else. It's you, or it's no one. I took the folder back to the warehouse, read it 3 times over the course of a week, called a lawyer friend from my old union days to explain what it actually meant. He walked me through it: limited authority, specific to education and healthcare, no financial responsibility, always working with the estate trustee. "It's an honor," he said. "They're asking you to be a grandfather figure, basically. Someone who shows up for the big decisions." I barely know them. "Tom, you've known them a year. Their kids call you Mr. Tom and light up when you walk in the room. How much more do you need to know?" I signed the papers on New Year's Eve, standing in Ethan's office with Nora and a notary public, and felt like I'd just promised something I didn't know how to keep. "Thank you," Nora said, hugging me hard. Ethan shook my hand, then pulled me into an embrace. "You won't regret this." "I already regret it," I said. "But I'll do it anyway." He laughed, and we toasted with champagne I didn't particularly like, and I drove back to the warehouse feeling like I'd crossed some invisible line I couldn't uncross. January brought the second part of their plan. "We're establishing an endowed grant," Nora announced during a foundation meeting. "For lakeshore trade education. Carpentry, maritime work, mechanics, HVAC, skills that keep communities running." She clicked to the next slide, and my name appeared in 48-point font: the Reeves Grant for Lakeshore Trades Education. "Wait," I said. "No." "Yes," Ethan countered. "You pulled that kid out of a burning boat. You've spent a year making sure medical equipment gets where it needs to go. You're exactly the kind of role model we want for this program." "I'm not a role model. I'm a warehouse supervisor." "You're a man who shows up," Nora said. "That's rarer than you think." The grant launched in February with funding for 15 students in the first year. The announcement made the local news: small story, back page, but with my photo and the foundation's logo. Ethan framed it, hung it in Tom's corner despite my protests. "People should know who you are," he said. "I'm nobody." "Stop saying that." His voice carried an edge I'd never heard. "You're not nobody. Not to me, not to Nora, not to our kids, not to the people who come through Tom's corner needing help. You're Tom Reeves, and you matter." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded and went back to work. In March, they arranged a ceremony at the pier where I'd done the rescue 6 years earlier. Small crowd, foundation staff and volunteers, a few reporters. And standing in the front, wearing a Coast Guard dress uniform, was Officer Miller, the kid from the boat, except he wasn't a kid anymore. He approached with something in his hands, a small brass badge. "This is an honorary watchstander designation," he said formally. "Awarded to civilians who exemplify the Coast Guard motto, Semper Paratus. Always ready." He pinned it to my jacket. "You were ready when I needed you, sir. You've been ready for everyone who's needed you since." "Thank you." He saluted. I didn't know what to do, so I saluted back, and people clapped, and Ethan's kids ran up to hug me, and I felt something crack open inside my chest that I'd kept locked for so long I'd forgotten it was there. Later, standing at the pier railing with Ethan while everyone else ate cake, he said, "You know what my father told me before he died?" "What?" "That home isn't a place. It's the people you choose to show up for, and the ones who show up for you." He looked at me. "Your home, Tom. For us. For Maddie. For everyone who walks into that warehouse." I watched the water, the sun setting red and gold across the lake, and let myself believe it. The 1-year anniversary arrived on a Tuesday in late October. I didn't mark it on any calendar, but Ethan and Nora remembered the night I'd pulled over on I-90, the night everything changed. They showed up at the warehouse just after midnight with their kids, half asleep and wrapped in blankets, and most of the foundation staff trailing behind. "Come outside," Nora said, grinning. In the parking lot sat a cargo van, older model but freshly painted, new tires, the foundation logo on the side panels. The keys dangled from Ethan's hand. It's yours, he said simply. For deliveries, pickups, whatever you need. You've been borrowing Foundation vehicles long enough. I opened my mouth to refuse, but Nora cut me off. You've earned this 10 times over. Accept it gracefully. So I took the keys, felt their weight in my palm, and nodded because words wouldn't come. There's more, Ethan said, leading me back inside. They'd transformed the corner I'd been using for overflow storage. Partitions installed, shelving units organized, racks of clothing arranged by size. A hand-painted sign hung above, Tom's Corner. It's a resource station, Nora explained. Warm gear, work tools, basic supplies. No paperwork, no questions. Anyone who needs something takes it. I walked through slowly, running my hand along the shelves, jackets, boots, tool kits, flashlights. Everything practical, everything chosen with care. Why? I finally asked. Because you showed up when no one else would, Ethan said. Because you've spent a year making sure people get what they need. Now you can do it directly. His daughter pressed a card into my hand, crayon drawing of the van, Mr. Tom written across the hood in uneven letters. Her brother had signed it too. Thank you for being our friend, it read. I folded it carefully, tucked it in my shirt pocket next to my father's watch, and managed, thank you. All of you. That night, after everyone left, I sat in the van with the engine running, heater blasting, and let myself feel the full weight of the year, the distance between the man who'd driven away from Maddie's house with nothing and the man sitting here now, surrounded by purpose. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived at the Foundation office. My name in Maddie's handwriting, forwarded to me with a note, hand-delivered this morning. I opened it standing by my loft window. Dad. Trevor and I are stable now. The house is ours again, and I start full-time at the hospital next month. The counseling saved us, not just financially, but in every way that matters. I've been thinking about what you said. About showing up being the only promise that counts. I remember after Mom died, you held me until I fell asleep, and when I woke up you were still there. You always were. I'm sorry I forgot that. I'm sorry I made you leave. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm asking if we can try again. Build something new instead of fixing something broken. Coffee next Saturday? Just us. No agenda. Maddie. I read it 3 times, then texted back, I'll be there. Saturday came. We met at the same diner, same booth. This time she arrived with no walls up, no defenses, just my daughter trying to find her way back. Tell me about the warehouse, she said after we ordered. Tell me about Tom's Corner. So I did. And she listened, really listened, asking about inventory systems and the people we helped and whether the Foundation needed volunteers. I could help, she offered. If you'd want me to. I'd like that. We talked for 2 hours, about her work, about Trevor's slow rebuild, about the future neither of us could predict but both wanted to try for. When we left, she hugged me tight, the way she used to when she was small. I missed you, Dad. Missed you too, kid. Same time next month? Same time next month. I watched her drive away, then sat in the van feeling like I'd found something I thought was lost forever. That night, Ethan found me restocking Tom's Corner. Good day? He asked. Really good day. He smiled, squeezed my shoulder, and left me to the work. Spring would bring new grant recipients, summer would bring expansion plans, but right now, standing in this corner of a warehouse I'd helped build, surrounded by supplies for people who needed them, with my daughter's letter in my pocket and coffee plans on the calendar, I finally understood what Ethan's father had meant. Home wasn't a building. It wasn't a title or a bank account. It was showing up. It was the people who showed up for each other. It was choosing, every day, to be present for what mattered. I was home.